that intro music. Hello, everybody, and welcome to AZAAZ. That's Zenatta Anything About Zoho. This is Volume 1, Issue number 25. You have questions about Zoho. You know, that company that has 75,000 different applications, and we have memorized all 75,000. We become experts at all 75,000. There is nothing we don't know about the Zoho. And so you write your questions and they come to us. And I'm Brett Martin, and I have some answers, but not a lot. But these guys, Greg Belknap, Tyler Cole, Landon McCluskey, they're the superstars. They know everything. They answer all of your questions. And with that, we're going to get in. Before we get into a question, Zalmi Berger said, where's AZAAZ number 25? Well, this is AZAAZ number 25. But what he meant was we didn't have one last week. We're going to an every other week format for a while, so you can expect that going forward. We're going to try to pare down. We get a lot of questions, and we're going to answer more of them actually in Club Zenatta, which is one place you can leave those questions, or we'll answer them on YouTube if we get them there. We're going to try to answer them in real time, but we're going to pick out some super good ones, the best of the best over the period of 2 weeks, take those 10 and give you kind of some better answers. So that's what happened to number 25. Everybody doing good with that, guys? We've had a week's rest, kinda, sorta. Let's get right on into the show with our first question.
Alrighty, first question here was asked over on YouTube by Elias Stout. This was asked in a video, serialized inventory tracking in Zoho Inventory. So question is, can I add unique specifications per serial number? And if so, where would that information appear? So good question, Elia. This is something that Zoho Inventory doesn't handle perfectly. So really, the serial number tracking in Zoho Inventory is really more of a list value of an item. Those serial numbers don't really create like their own records anywhere inside of inventory. So you have a few different options, and none of them, unfortunately, are going to be perfect. So first, a lot of times what we'll do here is post-sale. We'll write those serial numbers over to something like Zoho CRM, right? Essentially create like purchased product records, which then you can track those specifications and kind of future workflows against those individual products. Now, if you needed to have specifications on hand before the sale was made, I would think maybe a custom module inside of inventory. I don't know though, Greg, like, can you sync that? I guess maybe when a purchase order is logged with serial numbers on it, right, you would write to that module, but they would come in empty, right? And really would just have the serial number and would need some extra context, depending on how specific you need those specs to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think I would use the kind of combine the two things that you said, and it would be both post sale, but probably just post sale into a inventory custom module. Just so that it all is living in the same place. But yeah, I think that would be the easiest thing, just to have these post sale records where you could check, is this serial number already in this custom module somewhere? Then I'll update that entry. But if it's not, then I'll just make a new one for this particular serial number, so I know where it is and what it's doing. All right, our next question is posted in Club Zenatta. Madrasoft asks, can we use aggregate functions in JavaScript in Zoho Creator? The short answer, yes, you can. For those who are unfamiliar with the idea of JavaScript in Creator, there is, and I actually have a screen share to kind of show, this is just the Zoho help article on it, but thought I would use this to show you guys where some of this information rests. Inside of Zoho Creator, right, under the workflow section where you can make, form workflows and submission workflows, there's a functions tab where you can sort of create these standalone functions that you can call inside of your various form workflows. And most of the time we'll just use Deluge for that, but you can select to create a different scripting language. You can also do Node.js, which is what we're talking about right here. You can also do Java, and you can go look up resources on that. And inside of these Node.js functions, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here where they have some additional information. there are a few sort of default modules that Zoho packs into these Zoho Creator Node.js functions. So some of the node modules are Request Promise, Bluebird, Crypto, Axiom, and then they have a couple of other default node packages that just come with your standard Node.js. But the nice thing is that you can actually upload additional, libraries and modules into these Node.js functions. So you can, right out of the box, you can definitely do, aggregate functions. You might have to do some, some for each loops or something like that. But if you have a particular JavaScript library that can run more complex aggregate functions for you, you can just download the library and then upload it into this creator function, so then you can use those various functionalities within your code.
Awesome. Next one, also posted in Club Zenatta from Alex Whiteside, says, and this is kind of a long one, so stick with me here, but says, I've been researching parsing tools for a future project and implementation and haven't found anything turnkey-ish that works as a plugin. I tried finding something that would work with Flow as well, but not many apps that I've seen have that parse. So essentially he wants to take standardized invoices that sent to them from a vendor after they ship. They want to grab a lot of the information off there, tracking number, carrier, purchase order number, ship date, and then what's kind of missing there, the next part basically said, we want to take that info, run some workflows off of it, and, do a little bit there. So he said, just wondering if anyone has used anything they found somewhat pluggable and doesn't require Zapier, whatever, or another subscription outside of the parsing service if needed, not high volume at all, maybe 25 to 50 a month. So generally, the easiest way to do this, if you're doing it outside of Zoho with a subscription service, if they can push a webhook, that's perfect. You can grab that with Zoho Flow, put that info wherever you need it. That's honestly your most ideal way to do it. I looked at like 7 or 8 different parsing services out there for subscription. A bunch of them have free, free subscriptions or free tiers, but they're 15, 20, 30 emails per month max. So it might be a little more than you have. But yeah, most of those, it did look like you could do webhooks through. So get that set up, push it over, Zoho Flow catches it. You can put that info, run your workflows, whatever you need.
Parsing's always tricky, isn't it?
Very.
Yeah, never perfect. Next question here comes from Just Excel. This is asked on a YouTube video, scheduled emails via Zoho CRM workflows. So question is it possible to have an SMS as part of the scheduled emails workflow? So yes, it is definitely possible to have SMS as a part of it. The nitty-gritty will depend on which SMS provider you are using. So some of them are going to have like existing marketplace plugins that you can just download, install, and they'll actually add like an action. Kind of like when I showed creating the email template via the little notifications. A lot of them will actually just tuck a little send SMS notification into the actual native workflow actions. If not, like a service that we work with pretty often that's actually pretty good called Just Call. In their case, we just have to post webhooks. And you can do that either with a little deluge function, and we can also do that with a kind of predefined webhook action, right? In the, within your workflow actions, you can just have it trigger an unstructured webhook. Now, definitely, if possible, do those in deluge. This is a long time ago, but I always try to avoid using those kind of build your own webhook tool, because I've seen delays in those. I've seen that they will randomly take 30, 40 minutes to kick off. Now, a lot of the times that might not matter. You might say, you know what, like, I don't care. I just want the text to go out within about an hour of when it's scheduled, no big deal. But like something like maybe a purchase notification or, things like that might be really specific. You might want to think about writing a little bit of deluge, like a pretty simple little script.
Right. But this can be real. I mean, if you don't care, particularly about timing and stuff, and it just wants to be scheduled emails like he's talking about here. I mean, SMS Magic, Message Media, those plugins. I mean, you basically install them, and it's just a simple part of your workflow.
Magic is very good for that. They definitely add more actions that makes it easy.
Yeah, you can just go into a workflow and say, in 3 days, send an SMS and do this. So if you have like a, whole sequence you're wanting to send out, it would make it pretty easy to do that.
Part of your flow. That's enough to legally get by, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely enough. But you also sound like my 3-year-old, because that's what she's been singing lately, the real version of that.
Yeah. And by the way, a minute ago, Tyler, even though Tyler's voice is bad, a minute ago he said tuck. That was with a T. Make sure everybody's clear.
And need to stop saying that word.
I don't want us to get demonetized.
All right. Our next question comes from a YouTube comment on a Zoho Desk tutorial. Nitesh asks, how do I analyze the time entry on each Zoho Desk ticket, agent-wise, month-wise, or week-wise? And it's going to be our favorite app, good old analytics, baby. We love Zoho Analytics. And little surprise for Freddie. I actually have an additional screen share, so he can go ahead and swap over to that. But when you create a chart in analytics, could be like a visual, like a bar chart, or just a pivot data table. But when you drop in the whether you're dropping in agents, so you could drop that in as your x-axis, and then you'll see everything per agent. You could also drop in a date field here, and then inside of the date field, let me make this a little bit bigger for y'all. You can actually select how do you want that date field on the bottom to be shown. You can select, do you want to see it year over year, quarter, month and year, all the way down to if you want to see per millisecond. You can do that if you want, if you're a masochist. And the other thing you can do is you can also add, you could do both. If you wanted to see per agent per week, then what you would do is you could add your date field here in the x-axis, right? So that you'd see that on the bottom. And then you can add inside of, say, this color box on a chart, that's where you could put in your agent name. And so then you would see, for any given week, you would see a different column for each agent. And there you could have, the summation of, the time entry for all of those tickets. So, yeah, just can't say enough good things about Zoho Analytics. It just makes visualizing that kind of data so good.
I used to have a boss who said, in actuality wise. It's one of his favorite sayings.
Oh.
All right. We've got Jim Canto, after going over in Club Z general discussion, asked, what are the known issues with Zoho Calendar recurring invites? Oh, Jim. The known issues are so many. But your question is slightly different. It says, I'm running into some trouble with Zoho Calendar recurring invites. A coworker was creating a calendar invite in Google and at one point had a synchronization configured between the two calendar accounts. I'm not completely certain if there is still a sync configured or not. This person now appears to be configuring the calendar invites using Zoho Calendar due to complaints as outlined below. However, the problem persists. Some of our association members use Outlook as their default calendar within their organizations. These folks are sometimes receiving 2-3 notifications simultaneously from our calendar invites, which is causing complaints to come in. Basically, Jim goes on and says, I'm the head of IT over here, and I got to figure this out because it's a big problem. Jim, there's so much to unpack here. So on a recurring, look, it handles recurring invites, but it won't handle recurring invites. Sometimes it doesn't show them as busy. Sometimes it doesn't show them at all when you're doing a sync, like recurring invites just aren't there. But then your question's kind of not really around recurring invites. It's just around synchronization and multiple notifications. So it's just a mess, Jim, quite frankly. I mean, now recently, as little as 2 weeks ago, I think, Tyler, you and I reported on there's a brand new synchronization feature that's out between Zoho Calendar, Google Calendar and Outlook. If you haven't tried that, everybody's going to have to go into the back, go into settings, go into those calendars and turn on that sync. That may solve it for you, okay? Because it's brand new and it may fix some of these issues. But right now, for some reason, Zoho Calendar doesn't really seem to understand in many ways how calendars work and how recurring meetings work and any of those kind of things. And it's a real issue. But you've got a lot going on here. And honestly, without us kind of deep diving and taking a look at your system and seeing all the different moving parts, my best advice to you, and you guys can chime in here, would be to turn everything off and then, slowly kind of turn some things on, see what's working, work with a couple people and figure it out. I mean, it's going to be a little bit, but it's also very different in that you've got Outlook. I don't know if by Outlook, you mean these people are on Office 365 or they're using Outlook as their mail client, right? And it's and then you've got the Google Calendar and you've got Zoho Calendar. So what I think I'd want to know, Jim, is where does your calendar live? Is it living on Office 365? Is it living in Google or is it living in Zoho? That's kind of going to be one of the places to start here. Yeah, I don't know, a lot going on here, Jim, a lot of moving parts. All I can tell you is it's not very good at recurring meetings. And they've been working on the syncs. So try that if you're actually synchronizing between all those different ones and see if that fixes. Guys, anything else?
On my end of it, I did have a client last week that I was working on calendar stuff with. They used 365 and then Zoho Calendar. We weren't working with recurring meetings, but they were having issues with notifications and all that stuff on different stuff. We did actually do exactly that, where we just kind of shut off all that stuff and started the new syncs from scratch. It did take care of a few of those issues they were having. So I would say that's definitely your first avenue.
Path. Very good. All righty. And Rich Brandwine says, we have a number of folks that seem to use different email addresses at different times. When we convert these users from leads to contacts, it uses one of the emails. And when we come back the next time, the conversions force us to choose one of those emails. So if we keep the original email, this person will not be recognized again. The only way around this seems to be able to create multiple contacts for the same person to account for different emails. Any suggestions around this, or what we have to put Zoho, or how to have Zoho put this in their set of upgrades? This was a question on Club Z, and it was basically around Sales IQ. So people are actually in the CRM, they're in Sales IQ, they've done chats, we notice them, but then when they come in, they're using a different email address. It's actually, I think this can be solved. Freddie, I got a screen share. I don't know. Oh, look at you. If you go into settings and you go into modules and fields, and let's just go into contacts, and you go into contacts here, and let's go edit your view. One of the things I would check on is, you'll see here that the email is set as unique. You could have a secondary email, and you can set that secondary email as do not allow duplicates, and that will make it unique as well. You could create a field called a tertiary email and set that as do not allow duplicates. And my guess is, that's the entire screen share, any single time you go to convert that lead, it's going to look over there. And it's going to say, oh, I can't allow a duplicate. So when you convert leads, it says, this exists. Do you want to add it to this? Or it's not going to allow, and if you're set to not allow duplicates, it's not going to allow you to create a duplicate. It could look as many emails as that person has, and it's just going to append that account. Now, I think, guys, I haven't played this on the back end. If it's the primary email, it comes up and it says, this person exists. You just want to add this information, right? You say, yes, I do. Ask you if you want to change the company name. If there's no company name, you hit save. If it's the secondary or tertiary email, does it just flag that up? This already exists. View this record. Do we know? It's probably one of the two around that. Or it might do exactly the same thing as it does with the primary. But if you do that, it's not going to allow you to create dupes and have to create create other contacts. I don't know, guys, your thought?
It's never perfect. If the CRM defines a person as an email address or phone number, so if someone comes in with a new phone or email, it's just never going to be a perfect process.
Yeah. My best practice is I just keep adding their emails into their primary contact. Okay. It's so-and-so, and we'll find dupes occasionally, and I just copy that email, put it in the secondary email, and just, go on. I mean, I really don't go past 2 emails. You can have 3, I would imagine, but it's rare to have more than 2. People use their personal and their business. But if you start, if you do that, it does prevent this. So hope that helps.
All right, next question comes from Leonardo over on a video Josh just did on Creator, looking at bidirectional relationships between lookup fields and subforms in Zoho Creator. So question is, thanks for the videos. I have a question. If I have a sales form with a subform with the detail lines, when I save the sale, how do I go and update the stock in the inventory? And how do I make sure that all update operations are completed if there is a failure that reverts the changes that are already made, as it would in other languages, encapsulating everything in a transaction module? So a couple points here. First of all, when it comes to tracking the inventory, you have 2 options, right? First of which, assuming you're using something like Zoho Inventory on the back end, then really you just need to make sure that you're creating the appropriate transactional records, right? Which is very likely going to be a sales order. Making sure that once that moves forward, you convert it to an invoice, right? And all of this can be actually managed through the workflows inside of Creator, just using Deluge. Making sure that it gets invoiced, making sure the payment gets received against that. That's going to help manage the stock decrease when you're going through a sales process. Make sure to build in some type of flow to use purchase orders and bills out of inventory when you are purchasing it. Now, if let's say, you told me I'm just using Creator, right? That's all I'm using. Okay, big project now. We're out of the realm of creating a couple records in inventory. We're into the realm of every transactional records needs to recreate the rules that are already inside of Zoho Inventory, right? Which means a full lifetime sum of opening stock versus all transactional values throughout the history of time. That's actually what Zoho Inventory is doing every time that a transaction gets logged. So tricky math, right? If you're going to do it yourself, probably makes more sense to implement something like Inventory or Zoho Inventory, and just connect in via transactional records. If you've already got something that's a sales form that has a subform of items with prices and SKUs, it's going to be easier than you think to just turn that into a sales order inside of Zoho Inventory using some Deluge.
All about leveraging those pre-existing features.
All right, next one here from Jim Canto, also posted in Club Zenatta. He says, AZAAZ! Love the name, by the way. Questions, and number 3 is primary. First, what version of Zoho Creator comes with Zoho 1 as of September 2023? It's V5, so Creator 5. Can older Zoho 1 subscribers, upgrade to Creator V6 if that's what comes with the new Zoho 1 signups, which it doesn't, but you can upgrade to V6 if you're on V5, whether it's, and then question number 3, can either version of Zoho Creator access custom applications created within Zoho Connect via API or any other way? I manage an internal Connect network and an external Connect network. Please address both if applicable. Jim, you're not going to like my answer on this. Not 100% sure. The last time that we had the Creator to Connect, integration in any sort was, I think, Tyler, that was you, probably, maybe 2-3 years ago. And at the time it was just completely
weird, man. It was real weird. So this was back in the day, we used to use Connect to manage a lot of our tasks, and was thinking, it'd be cool if we could have the tasks in Connect, and then I would plug in a little custom app, because as you guys know, Josh has a custom app that we've used for a long time just for tracking time. Now it's everything. It's an everything app. But it used to be basically a calendar, right? Click and drag, pick a client, log the time. So I thought, cool, let's put it all together, right? Let's bring in the custom apps. So we'll turn that on, we'll connect it. It was very weird. So when I turned on that custom app thing, it basically spun up like its own instance of Creator, but it was like Creator V3 that was in there. It was unrecognizable to me when I opened it up. So I promptly gave up on that. And we just put a link. We just put a link to the app. That kind of solved it for us. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to try it again, but I know every time that I've touched that, it seems like it's officially deprecated. I don't see it really getting any support. Anytime you interact with something in Zoho and it spins you up like a new license, that's on like an old version of a tool, it's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, did you actually expect me to click this button? And I don't think they're really expecting many people to click it.
I think from what I can kind of tell, I think they're just trying to push anything and everything with those two anyway. I think trying to have you go through Flow for what you can, or a little bit here or there, native integration, but it doesn't seem like there's much change. I haven't taken the time to go through and try and create a bunch of stuff in there to go between, but honestly, Jim, you're just going to have to kind of test it out. I can't give you more info, unfortunately.
Okay, our next question comes from a Club Z post from Jason Veers, who asks, is this a glitch that a deal's contact name doesn't automatically associate to a blueprint created task when setting up a blueprint process? So Jason's post in Club Z had also a video walkthrough of his particular issue. So what he's doing is he has a blueprint that is running on deals that he wants to move. He wants to create a follow-up task when a deal is going through this postponement transition. And he's setting up a related task, and he wants to define, obviously you have to define the subject when you're creating it. And he also wants to define the due date because he doesn't want a set due date, but just one where you can pick it on the fly. And then this is an interesting problem that is, I think, just an oversight, just a feature missing in Zoho. But even though a contact is very clearly associated to the deal, that contact is not automatically pulled over into the contact name field on the task when it feels like it should. So to answer your question directly, Jason, no, it's not a glitch. It is a missing feature. It's not a bug. It's a missing feature. But I do have some good news for you to help you out. We've created a code share over on Club Zenatta. So I have here populating a CRM task contact name using the related to record. So this is going to exist as a workflow that we're just on creation of a task. You'll want this to trigger, and essentially what it does is it's going to check the contact name, and if that contact name is empty but the related to field is not empty, then it's going to grab that related record, and then it's just going to start going through every field on that related record. And if it finds like a big long number that is most likely an ID number, it's going to try to fetch a contact from the contacts module. If it doesn't find one, no big deal, just skips on to the next field. But if it does find one, then it's going to take that contact record and then plug that into the contact name, or who ID in API name terms, into that task. So you can pretty much plug and play this one in there. And bonus question, since posting this just 17 hours ago, we already got a follow-up from Club Z user Brian Pearson saying, looks good. Will this work for meetings as well by replacing reference of tasks with meetings? And the answer is yes, you can. Up here at the top where I have that I'm getting the record from tasks, you could replace this with events, which is the API name for meetings, or calls, and this will operate the same exact way, because at least for now, though they're all technically one module that are using the same API names for that who ID and what ID representing the contact name in the related to field. I did mention down here that it is going to work the same way, at least until Zoho deprecates the activities module. Then who knows? We've been seeing those warnings pop up. So I don't know if all of the API names for calls, tasks, and meetings are going to change to be like individual module names or API names. But at least for now, this will totally work.
And I have to say, Jason, speaking of glitches, if you haven't seen the TV show Glitch on Netflix, 3 seasons, 18 episodes, Australian, 2015, watch it. People mysteriously just start coming back from the dead. I'm talking people from the 1800s, people from the 1900s, people from a couple of years ago. They dig themselves out of their graves. You think it's a horror movie? No, it's not. Fascinating. Well worth the watch. It's a glitch. But,
no, people are coming back from the dead.
And coming up, by the way, AZAAZ. Ask Zenatta anything about the movies. We got a whole movie review show coming up. Greg and I will be hosting it along with Landon. Tyler has no interest.
There's a lot of yoga, a lot of goats, a lot of movie watching. We host from the back sometimes.
Yes. Matter of fact, that is where Go Yo Zug is going. It's a new movie review site. Check it out. First review will be of Glitch. Hey, Nick's got a question. If you could choose any providers for phone and SMS, what would your Zoho One CRM desk recruit phone and SMS configuration be? What is Zenatta's core recommendations for the best experience? Okay. Since you actually put those specific things, Zoho One, CRM, desk and recruit, it's Ring Central right now. SMS would be message media. But I put a big caveat here and a big but. We are deep, Nick, in reviews. And you can go look at any of the things under Phone Bridge and telephony there. Most of those are going to be very good. You'll just want to check and see which ones work best. Make sure they work with all of those. What I just told you will handle everything you just wanted. Okay? So Ring Central, message media, you're good. But it's been an ongoing thing. We're kind of, Tyler and I are deep in looking at several things. We've had a lot of conversations with some interesting companies. We're doing a whole nother deep dive into this as to what would be the best way to go and what to work. This is the big thing to solve for, not necessarily phone, but SMS, and making that totally seamless and integrated into all of those products. That becomes the big issue here. So right now, that's what you've got. That's what we would recommend. But there are a lot of things in play right now. We're actually talking to some very high up at some nice telephony providers right now about doing some stuff. We're working with some telephony integrators and talking to them about some stuff. And so I hope that, by the end of this year, early next year, we've got something we can say, this is it, period. Go with this. It's going to be your best solution. You say, well, if Ring Central and Message Media, well, they're both great. But Ring Central we find to be difficult to work with sometimes. That's all. They try to put you into, we really don't like companies that try to lock you into long-term contracts and all sorts of things around that. But anyway, for now, that's your way to go. They're very good. You're not gonna go wrong.
That does it. That's an AZAAZ for the books.
That's AZAAZ. And next week we'll be talking about season 3 of The Witcher, and why Henry Cavill left. We've got a really good discussion about that. Looking forward.
Yeah, it's going to be a longer show because of that, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah. But was it Liam Hemsworth is taking over for him on the next season of The Witcher?
One of the Hemsworth brood. There's so many of those. I always hear about a new one, and I'm like, there's more. There's more.
I know.
Who is Australian as well.
Yep.
Hey, look at me on The Witcher.
What happens to Yennefer? Why didn't her mother name her Jennifer? All these things that we need to know.
Big questions that need to be answered.
So that's the big question, the Yennefer question, more than anything else, really is.
42.
Yep. Jasker. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, guys. We want to thank everybody for watching another episode of AZAAZ. As always, if you would like to get in touch with this band of whatever you want to call us, you can do so by heading over to zenatta.com and clicking on Book a Meeting. We'd love to talk to you.
On the website is where you'll find complete episodes of our podcast, The CRM Zen Show, where we cover all the news in the world of Zoho every single week. If you want that news delivered directly to your inbox every Monday morning, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter.
Over to club.zenatta.com to join our online community where you can get the code shares that we talked about today, as well as chatting with all kinds of other Zoho users.
All kinds of other Zoho users. Speaking of which, if you want to get trained, Zoho CRM, Zoho projects, your team can get trained 7 days, not a big deal. Go to zenatta.com/training, free trial there, or I don't know, free sample, something like that.
Samples, yeah.
Totally worth it. I actually, this last week, had 2 separate people call me and thank me for having them get it because they just love it. So check it out.
You know that
The new tagline, that
Zoho
7
users,
days,
by the
no
way.
big deal. We should just have that plastered up at the top of the screen. Just 7 days,
no
no big deal.
Love it.
Just 7 days.
And last but not least, please be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We will see you 2 Wednesdays from now for the next volume and issue of AZAAZ. Thanks everyone for watching.
14 days, no big deal.
Damn. Ask Zoho anything about movies. Was Humphrey Bogart really dating Laura McCall when they were making
So our
Casablanca?
first episode about that is going to be about a TV show. Is that right? Our first movie review podcast is going to be about a TV show.
We're going to have AZAAZ.
Okay.